Talk about dramatic winner. 6 minutes into added time from Joe Aribo gave Saints all 3 points at Birmingham. Alffie, you were there. Did you see that one coming at the end? Did you give up hope? Did you think when we got that corner, this could be it?
Well, I think to be fair, we've been given enough warnings now to not give up hope. I mean, it must be the fourth, 95th or later winner or goal and away from home this season. So I don't think I gave up hope completely. I mean, I thought in terms. I mean, let's get the negatives out of the way first, because I asked Russell Martin, what do you want to say about the game? I don't even know where to start. And he said that all 3 goals were absolutely shocking. And he's totally right. There's way too much space for the first one, shocking communication for the second one, and then they don't react anywhere near enough quickly enough in the box for the third one. And they are some of the things that we have seen in this sort of 5 or 6 game spell where they've conceded. I think it's now 16 goals in 7 games, maybe. So that isn't good enough. But the attack was, in my opinion, as good as it's been all season. I mean, I think David Brooks was an absolute creative force. Shea Adams missed a big chance, but he linked up really well, just sort of dropping into the hole, spinning balls off. Adam Armstrong was back to his best. He's got 7 goals in his last 6 against Birmingham. I think maybe even 7 in 5. I think maybe something like that. He loves scoring against them, and I thought he was brilliant. He was involved in pretty much everything. And Will Smallbone was obviously excellent in parts as well, and made a real statement. So I think I did expect something to happen, but I bet it was an amazing away end to be involved in. Another late goal. The only thing that I'm still unsure about is why we're playing one of the league's best players out of position in Taylor Howard-Bellis right back. And I know we've not got Kyle Walker-Peters, and that's probably the reason. But it's a little bit strange to me. That being said, I thought Taylor and Jack Stevens both actually played really well, but there's clearly a bit of a disconnect in the back line at the moment. They're conceding way too many goals, and it's something that Russell Martin knows he's going to have to sort out.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it's something they're going to look at. We will speak to somebody who was in that away end in just a moment. He sat there smiling in the corner. Just a quick sort of recap of what happened if you missed it yesterday. Behind within the first 2 minutes, then level through Adam Armstrong. Stanfield put Birmingham ahead just before half-time. Brooks got the second equaliser. We were then in front through Shea Adams. Birmingham went down to 10 men. Bacuna levelled on 77 minutes. And then Joe Aribo with a 96th-minute winner. What was it like in that away end, Steve?
Yeah, good fun. And it was one of those, it kind of did feel like it was always coming. While it was obviously very annoying to concede that equaliser in the way that we did. I mean, I saw on a forum that I use elsewhere that there was a Birmingham fan on there, and he basically said we equalised too early. Because there was still 5 minutes plus whatever was going to be added, and we knew it was going to be plenty. And we'd been swarming all over them for the whole second half, so it wasn't as if that was going to change anything. Birmingham was still going to have to stick everybody behind the ball, which they'd done since half time, even with 11 men, and we still found our way through even then. So it was a case of just getting the moment. I mean, it was such a weird game in that we were so dominant for so much of it that on another day we could win that game 7 or 8-0. It was just bizarre. The goals conceded. The first one's off. The first one is so blatantly handball as well. The guy has basically punched it down into his path. The ball's slightly behind him, so there's no way that he's actually able to control that with his chest and put it into sort of into the way he's running. And that should have been a bit of a clue for the officials, really. The thing that annoys me about these sort of things is that we've only ever got one man at most complaining about these decisions. Bednarek was the only one that appealed with any sort of strength of it. It's a little bit frustrating. Second one, I've seen and heard. I mean, certainly in the ground, there are a lot of people pinning the blame on Ryan Manning for that second goal. But you could also clearly see afterwards, which isn't shown. I don't think it's shown on any of the footage. You could clearly see that Manning and Bednarek were having an argument in the penalty area afterwards, sort of inquest, and Manning was clearly saying, "Look, listen, I shouted to you." And like Manning wouldn't have had to move; he'd have had an easy header, and there'd have been no danger whatsoever. But Bednarek's come flying in, tries to win a header that he was never going to be able to get a full head on, and yeah, I mean, it costs us a goal in the end. So yeah, I mean, as Alffie says, there's plenty of work defensively to be getting on with this week in training. That's for sure. Interesting that, yeah, we still gave up those goals despite Flyn Downs being back in the side. But I do think that overall we were just so much more assured in kind of everything. It was weird that as a defensive shape we actually looked fine. It was just literally those probably 3 moments plus maybe the one where Bacuna hit the post as well at 1-0. And other than that, they didn't really get anywhere near us. And but for them throwing bodies in the way and a couple of bad finishes, hit the woodwork a couple of times. Yeah, as I say, we could have had 7 or 8 on another day. But I mean, where's the fun in that? Last minute winner is always much more satisfying, isn't it? Let's be
Always
honest.
makes the journey home a bit better, doesn't it? I mean, Glen Russell Martin said afterwards, it's not a tactical thing. We're not getting carved open. It's just rubbish goals that we're conceding. He kind of, as Alffie said, he was quick to address the poor goals. It's just some bad mistakes. It's not going to take too much analysis when they sit down and they start looking back at these.
No, I think it's more simple. It's more nuanced than just saying Ryan Manning should have done better here. Bednarek should have done better on the second goal. I just feel like we'd cracked it. During the 25-game run, we'd cracked it with the settled back four, goalkeeper, Flyn Downs. Ever since, obviously, Flyn Downs got injured, we had to do something. I think we all kind of think that it would have been better off just doing a straight swap rather than trying to, with Shay Charles, rather than trying to use Will Smallbone in a role that he's not really suited to. As Steve said, Flyn Downs comes back yesterday, but we've got Taylor Harwood-Bellis playing at right back. Now, I don't know, but I have a theory that Bednarek wouldn't have made that mistake if Taylor Harwood-Bellis was next to him. And I'm not blaming Jack Stevens for it because he was nowhere near it. Mm-hmm. But the two of them dovetailed so well that Bednarek always knows where Harwood-Bellis is going to be. The amount of times they go up for a long ball and one of them leaves it, and they know that the other one's sweeping up behind, and that was the classic for that. That goal we let in was a classic example of that. I don't think Bednarek really wanted to head that, and if he was like, I need to leave this, I need to let this run. Oh no, I need to head it, and in the end, he ends up doing both or neither, and just knocking it through to Stansfield. It's a good finish, to be fair, but that goal wouldn't be out of place on the Veracity ground, would it? It's just a big welly up the middle, and it's a park goal. It's terrible. So I'm hoping that if Kyle Walker-Peters is back on Wednesday, that we revert to the back four that's done well. But I bet we don't. If Kyle Walker-Peters is fit, I reckon Manning will get dropped, and Kyle Walker-Peters will play left back and Harwood-Bellis right back. And I don't like messing around with the defence. And I remember saying halfway through the unbeaten run that back four, Flyn Downs and the goalkeeper, that's the reason we've won all these games. That's the reason we'll get promoted if we keep it intact. And I just hope that Russell Martin goes back to that when everyone is available. But yeah, I mean, but you can look at individuals on the goals. Obviously, Bednarek on the second goal, Ryan Manning got caught in field on the first goal, and the third goal, Manning gets beat far too easily by Laird, and when he pulls the ball back, Stevens is with Stansfield, but he still, he stood right next to him, and he still allows him to get the shot in, which hits the post, and the guy sticks it in at the back post. So there are certainly things that individuals can work on, but I do think it's more of a problem for the collective rather than just individual mistakes.
I mean, Russell said to me last week that he feels this team needs Jack Stevens in it, and so far he has stuck to that. So I just can't see him changing that. He thinks he has to have that in there, and then he will.
I totally disagree, but then I'm not the manager. We won. I don't know how you can kind of say that, bearing in mind how many games we won without him, when he was injured and when he was coming back. So I personally don't don't believe that. But then,
It's
you
a
know,
strange one
Russell
though, because
Martin,
if you look at his individual performance, Jack Stephens has actually played well in pretty much all the games he's come in. Like he's doing this weird
Yeah.
John Stones role, which is obviously a Man City thing that he's watched on the telly and wants to recreate. But he actually does it well. It's just the equilibrium, the rest of the defence that it falters.
yeah, I mean, yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He does do some nice things in, you know, on an individual basis, but it's about the, you know, the collective, and it's especially in defence. I mean, I'm more of a defence type of guy, and that's kind of what I look at, and I just don't think at the level we're at, we're not Manchester City. You know, let's get this right. The players we've got are not that sort of level, and much though we'd like them to be, they can't all fit into every system, which I'm sure, you know, Russell Martin would like them to. So if you find something that works, I don't see why you'd change it at the back. I really don't. But there we go. At the end of the day, we won the game. So but it's similar to the Huddersfield one. There's a lack of control, isn't there? And it ends up being far more chaotic than it should have been.
There was a lot we made of Flyn Downs missing, Steve, in recent games. Obviously, he was back at the weekend. What was your view on him and his role in the team, and alongside it was Smallbone and was it Stewie Armstrong, I think, wasn't it, in that midfield? How did that work out for you?
I mean, he was solid. Did what he does, and that settled the midfield down completely. I think Stu Armstrong didn't have his best game. He was okay in the first half, but went completely missing after the break. But fortunately, Downs and Smallbone had a great game, I thought. 2 assists and was always involved. And it was, I think that's one. I mean, we've mentioned this countless times already this season and even already this evening, that when Downs is there, it frees Smallbone up to play in a position that actually suits him. And you're trying to play him as in the 6 role just doesn't fit. I mean, he can put in performances there, but it's much less likely than likely that he's going to do so. Whereas in the role that he played yesterday, especially against a side that is down sort of struggling against relegation, where you're going to have the majority of the ball. I know we have the majority of the ball against most sides in this division, but especially so in this sort of game. And he finds those little pockets of space, and he was excellent, I thought.
Some good goals to get back into the game as well. Which end were you? Did you see the you were at the end for the winner, weren't you? Because it looked like Aribo was going to go and celebrate in the wrong corner of the ground for a little bit, and then he kind of like turned on his heels.
Yeah, either that or he was going to run down the tunnel. I don't know.
I've never seen him turn and run so fast when he realised he was celebrating in front of
him the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting seeing being able to watch the highlights sort of afterwards, where I mean, frankly, Adam Armstrong looked miles offside from where we were.
Yeah,
and obviously there were a lot of protests from both home fans and players. But actually, when you see it on the highlights, if you do pause it at the point of Brooks playing the pass, he is comfortably onside. So actually, yeah, credit where it's due. Excellent decision by the linesman. But yeah, I mean, let's be honest, it's always better when you're celebrating a winner in front of your fans, which is obviously why we're trying to move the away end now at St Mary's, to get rid of those limbs moments.
Yeah, there was a sending off as well, Alffie, which we thought might have changed the game, but maybe not. The challenge on Will Smallbone, was that the correct call? Because I think the managers disagreed perhaps afterwards, as you would expect.
Yeah, obviously you would expect Russell Martin to come out and say that it's the correct decision. I think that the isolated red card itself is pretty harsh. I know he comes in with his potentially studs up and that. It could be harsh, but I'm going to caveat that by saying whether you think it's a red card or not, he should have been booked for strangling Che Adams in the first half anyway. So it would have been a second yellow and a sending off regardless. So it's the right decision to send him off. And yeah, like we know that from some of the best managers in history that it's not easy to play against 10 men, and it proved like that again. But yeah, I don't think you can have any complaints that he was sent off.
Straight red for you, Glenn, or not?
Absolutely, 100%. If you look at it, he goes. I don't think he means to, but I just think he's a big donkey. To be honest, I thought that in the game at St Mary's. I thought he was terrible, and that's why I thought he's their captain. That's why I thought we'd have a very good chance of winning yesterday. He goes for the challenge. he almost turns his back on Smallbone. I don't know what he's doing, and he goes for the ball in sort of like a downward stamp motion. So he's not even looking at Smallbone. He doesn't actually. He catches him a little bit, not that much. If he'd caught him flush on the knee, Will Smallbone wouldn't be playing for 9 months. It was as dangerous as you like. It's the sort of thing that wouldn't have been sent off. You wouldn't have been sent off 30 years ago because he didn't challenge him that hard. But that for me was the very definition of a dangerous tackle. Even though I don't believe he meant it, I just thought it was just rubbish play from a rubbish player, to be honest. But I don't know how, even if you're the staunchest blue nose, that you can dispute that. I mean, most of them were celebrating that he's going to miss the next 3 games, to be honest. And, can you appeal? Hopefully it'll get moved to 6 games or whatever. So, no.
I did enjoy Smallbone's response to it, though. I think Bakuna came in with quite a hard challenge on him off the ball about 10 seconds later. And by the time I'd written the tweet for that, Smallbone went and did the same thing to him and obviously got himself booked in the process. But he had a bit of fight about him. It was a real statement performance.
Yeah.
Obviously, Russell had to bring him off after that. But I did enjoy that.
And a bit of celebration in front of the dugout as well, Alffie, adding a bit of spice to it yesterday when they thought they got back in it.
Yeah, well, Jay Stansfield is obviously a proper character, isn't he? And he's an unbelievable player. I mean, both times he's played Southampton, I think he's been really good. Obviously, the story of him scoring a hat-trick in his dad's shirt for Exeter is fantastic. So you won't find a football man that doesn't want him to do well, I think. But yeah, I asked Russell Martin about it, and he's pretty happy for that. Apparently, he's a family friend of Matt Gill's, so he's probably given him a bit of leeway on it. I'm sure if it was somebody else, he'd be fucking fuming. But it's good. It's a good moment. It's what football's all about, isn't it? And obviously, when you go on to win, it makes it all the more sweet.
I just want to talk, Steve, as well about the front 3, because you've got obviously Che and Brooks and Adam Armstrong all scoring, and we had to be better in the final third. And you kind of felt like, as you said, we could have scored a hatful yesterday, but things were certainly looking a bit more fluid.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I thought Shea Adams had a dreadful first half, but everything was bouncing off of his shins. Passes were going astray, but after the break, he was a completely different player. Everything was sticking, and he was bringing other people into the game, and obviously had plenty of shots himself. He obviously got the goal, but there was another one where he hit the side netting. A couple of others which Birmingham defenders threw themselves in the way of, and the ball deflected, either just dribbled into the keeper's hands or went wide for a corner. So, huge improvement, sort of in terms of output from the front 3, who have all had little sort of dips over the last week or two. I mean, obviously Brooks is obviously new to the team, and he's getting up to speed in terms of playing this regularly, because obviously he's had very little football over the last 2 years, really, in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, so him putting in a performance from the start is bodes very well, especially with Ryan Fraser out for a little while. It gives us enough options to keep the opposition guessing.
We'll get onto the Liverpool game a bit later, Glenn, but there's nobody that's really kind of like chomping at the bit. They've had a chance to come in and stake a claim, and you get the impression that this is the front 3 now, isn't it? This is for the last 11 games. This is who we want fit and firing.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Adam Armstrong, he's had a bit of a rest over the last sort of few games, and as Alffie said, he looked back to his best. He's never the tidiest looking player for me. His first touch disappoints me on numerous occasions, but he's good enough to score goals in this league, and he's done it. And we need him in the 12 games that are left, or whatever it is, to be getting another 10 goals, and then we'll be up there. Che Adams is such a mixed bag, as Steve said. He's had some games where he's looked the best forward in the league, and he's had some games where he's just been atrocious, and it just looks like he's never played football in his life before. And it sounds like it from the game that Steve's describing, that he managed to do both in the same game. No one really stuck their hand up in the Liverpool game. I mean, it was a chance. We'll get onto it later, I'm sure. But the guys in question who could have put their hands up to play up front, they kind of blew it. So no, I think we're looking at those guys, and David Brooks is an excellent addition to the mix, especially with the timing with with Ryan Fraser being injured, because he's obviously got a goal in him, which we're missing, obviously, with Fraser not being there. Dozie's got a goal in him. So in between the two of them, we should have enough options to play on one wing and Adam Armstrong playing on the other.
It was interesting, the other results too, Alffie, with Leicester dropping more points. It feels to me like it's becoming impossible to predict who's going to get these automatics now. And it's so funny how like one weekend can just change it, and all of a sudden we're full of optimism again.
Yeah, it was all over last Saturday, wasn't it? Like Leeds were promoted and we were down for another season. I mean, you pay attention to the results, obviously, because you want to see it. But realistically, right now, they don't actually mean that much. The fact that there's only 8 points between Southampton and Leicester, who have been runaway league leaders for 10 months, is remarkable. And obviously, as we said before we came on air, Glen said, we all sort of not wrote Ipswich off because not that naive, but we thought that the wheels were coming off, and they've won 5 games in a row, and now they're right back in contention. So, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting end to the season, and it's going to be a very nervous game at Ellen Road. I'm not looking forward to it.
No, okay. I don't know if you saw the tweet from Lewis Coombs, who said the top 4 have already amassed the points needed to secure a playoff place last season with 11 games to go. It's just a hell of a season this year. I want to do TSP Player of the Week now, because I don't think anybody has kind of played their way into contention from the Liverpool game. So, Steve, I'm going to start with you. Who were the standout players yesterday? Because there's a few names that we could put on the poll.
I mean, Smallbone's the obvious standout. I think 2 assists yesterday, and also that kind of sort of I'll show 'em performance from the completely unwarranted stick he got after one misplaced pass on Wednesday night, which, I mean, frankly, some people in our fan base need to take a long, hard look at themselves. And I include people that were at the game yesterday, because when Ryan Manning went down at one point in the second half, and it looked like potentially a serious injury, there was an older gentleman stood 2 or 3 rows behind me, very audibly started cheering and saying, "Yeah, thank God Manning's injured. We can get a proper player on now." I mean, frankly, that sort of shit is absolutely pathetic, and it's not welcome.
It wasn't me. Hi, Snowad.
No, he had a lot more stubble than you did.
You spoke to him about that this week, didn't you, Alffie? Was that a piece this week about with Ryan Manning and about the role that and the fans and the stick that you get?
Yeah, to be fair, like Ryan Manning's a lovely bloke. He's always happy to answer any question, and he talks well. And I just asked him, obviously, I think he's been a little bit unlucky with some of the stick he's got at times, and what was his response to it? And he said that at the end of the day, we wouldn't be getting paid to play football if it wasn't for the fans' opinions. So you just have to get on with it. He hopes to prove people wrong, but one of the things he did talk about was that obviously the position he's asked to play, he says it's not a traditional left back like you would play on a Sunday league team. Is the reason he's caught out sometimes is because Russell Martin's asking him to be right up the pitch, involved in the play all the time. Obviously he's made defensive mistakes this season, but that is a good point and it is true. But yeah, he's a good lad, and I want him to do well. I cringe a little bit every time he does make a mistake, because he's a nice guy.
All right, so we've got Will Smallbone on the list. Alffie, who was your stand-up performer?
I think the best player on the pitch was David Brooks. Will Smallbone's obviously rich in narrative, and I think one of our own, the chants were amazing. But David Brooks showed that he's an absolute class above. He created so many chances in the first half, and then he somehow made it even better in the second with just skipping past his player and a really beautiful finish into the far netting. So David Brooks for me. Yeah,
it was some goal, wasn't it? And Glenn, anyone else you want to add to the list?
No, not really. I was going to say Smallbone and Brooks. Yeah, Brooks is he's just a quality player. I can't believe we got him on loan, to be honest. I know. I mean, Bournemouth, through gritted teeth, have absolutely done us a favour there, because I mean,
extending hands across the forest.
Yeah, he's such a good player, and to get someone like him on loan, I know obviously with the issues he's had, that's kind of the reason we've got him, to give him game time. They obviously want to do right by him, but to have him come in January to a team that was already performing well, and he's been tremendous in virtually every game he's played. I think there might have been one game that he started where he was a bit kind of disappointed. Can't remember which one that was, but overall he's contributed well to and he also he said when he joined that he wants to earn his minutes, which I think was.
Yeah, it wasn't guaranteed.
Was massive for me. He knew it wasn't guaranteed, and he's done that. I think he's he's proven probably with that performance against Birmingham that he should be starting, especially whilst Ryan Fraser is injured. So no, I can't really look past him and Will Smallbone.
Great stuff.